Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to health coach and author Cheryl Meyer. Today we'll be chatting about her recently published book, Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin in Community and Everyday Life. This is the perfect immunity booster for our times, with everyone concerned about COVID-19 and staying healthy in times of virus and anxiety. Award-winning Cheryl Meyer brings us a comprehensive guide to not only fighting viruses and staying healthy, but actually preventing some illnesses and maximising wellness by boosting our immunity. The idea is that food is our best medicine and that prevention is key. The answer lies in nature's medicine cabinet, food. Food is rich in vitamins, minerals and other healthy nutrients that our bodies and minds need to thrive. Instead of focusing on treatment found over the counter or in prescription, this book focuses on prevention with an emphasis on organic, natural food, the importance of distressing and care for others, including children, pets and loved ones. Hi Cheryl, thank you for coming back on Book Talk Radio Club.
Thank you for having me, Claire. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. The first sentence in the description of Feeling Good is, "Where is the magic pill in the time of the pandemic?" You go on to say, boost your immune system today so that you and your family have a healthy defense system and feel great. I have to ask Cheryl, is it that simple?
Yes and no. Food is the foundation for health. So if you're not putting the right kind of food into your body, you can't build healthy cells. It's like garbage in, garbage out on a computer. So the most important foundational piece is what you're eating, and to eat all the colors of the rainbow and to eat them all at the same time, because there's magic that happens with a synergy when you're eating all the colors together. So it is the key foundational piece to a healthy body.
That's interesting. So all the colours, they all work together, all the foods and all the colours and everything, the energy all works together.
Yeah, I like to joke they party when they get together in your body and you feel that.
I like that idea. So the foods we eat affect our ability to remain healthy. What kind of food should we avoid and what kind should we eat then?
Well, believe it or not, and I'm going to talk more to the American standard diet because that's what I'm most familiar with, but I know that in England you eat a lot of our processed foods. You want to be eating real food with real nutrients, which means 75% of what you put in your body should be live vegetables and fruits, because that's where you're going to get the basis for all of the right building blocks to build cells in your body. And believe it or not, all your cells have a shelf life. And so when they're ready to start to rebuild, you want them to have good building supplies. If you're eating processed food or fast food, you're eating a lot of synthetic ingredients, and if you don't know what that ingredient is on the label, your body doesn't know what it is either. So it has nothing to build from or to pull from. You want all of the luscious phytonutrients that you're getting from whole foods, preferably organic, because you don't want an unhealthy dose of toxins when you're eating those vegetables and fruits.
Okay, so we now know what kind of food to eat and what to avoid. Fairly easy to keep up at home, but what happens when we go on vacation or to other people's homes? That might be a bit more difficult.
It is, and that's actually why I wrote the second book. My functional doctor told me that was the part that her patients were not figuring out, but that I had. Because I can now tell from my body when I'm eating something that is not good, because I got autoimmune disease 8 years ago, and I've cleaned up all the toxins. I had to learn, being a very social person, how to leave my house and live in community and still not put things into my body that my body was going to react poorly to. So this book shares, how do I go to restaurants? How do I go to somebody else's house for dinner? How do I go to my family's to spend a week or a weekend? Because those were all skills that I learned that I wanted to share with other people who want to maintain a healthy eating relationship with food without giving it up because they can't control it in their house. So I have 18 sensitivities. I put them on a business card with my face so that when I go to a restaurant, I probably have vetted it first and called the chef to make sure there are things that he can feed me. But when I get to the restaurant, I hand it to the waiter and send him to the going to bring our own food. And I'll bring plenty that their other guests can eat, but because food can make me sick if I don't know what the ingredients are in it, I hope that they know that I'm coming because I really want to spend time with them, and that I'll bring my own food that I can share with other people. Because I'm still a foodie, we still eat yummy food. We just eat yummy food that's healthy. So it works. And I've never had anybody say, no, I want you to come, or, either you eat my food or don't show up.
Well, exactly.
They sort of adjust to the fact that I have put it that way. I bought everyone in my family a paleo cookbook. So if I'm going to their house, they pull out the paleo cookbook, and that's what they cook from. And they buy organic vegetables that they can make for me. They love me, so they want to accommodate healthy living for me, because they knew how sick I got, and they're so happy that I no longer have pain at all, because I couldn't even get out of bed when I first got sick. So that takes care of the community portion. But I also talk in the book about how do we travel, first by car, then by air, domestically and internationally, and I've only been married 5 years. We've been overseas twice. There are all kinds of little tricks that you do, but you plan ahead. We bought a second home in Sedona. We live in Los Angeles. We drive back and forth. It's a 7-hour drive. We bought a little tiny refrigerator from Amazon that plugs into the car, so we can keep our healthy lunch cold so that we can picnic along the desert highway between the two locations.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant.
If you think ahead, it does take some planning.
Yeah.
If I'm going to travel domestically, I pick a hotel that has a refrigerator, and I check out where's the closest organic grocery store. So I land, I go to the grocery store, and I stock the refrigerator.
Brilliant.
It's not hard to do. And then I vet restaurants just like I do when I'm home. I'll call ahead and see what I can find.
So it's
that I know where I can eat.
It's just a matter of planning then, isn't it? Getting used to planning. It's very simple.
It's all planning. And people say, aren't you deprived? Heck no. I was deprived when I was making my body sick.
Exactly.
Now my body is celebrating, so it is not deprived at all. It's worth it to eat this way for me.
It's not just the processed loaded with sugar foods we should avoid, is it? Stress plays a huge part as well.
Stress is enormous. I had my own business when I got sick. I manufactured jewelry for big box jewelers in the United States. And I thought stress was good for me. So I didn't do anything about it. And it toppled over the top so that when I got sick, my cortisol was so low, I was almost to Addison's disease. I joke, the tiger, which is the mechanism that stress protects us from, caught me and almost ate me. So learning how to control my stress has been one of the most crucial things that I have learned. And in both books, I have a chapter on stress. I think it's that important. And I also just published a little book for your desk on 2-minute exercises that you can pick from randomly throughout your day that you do to let the steam off the top of the stress so that it never becomes chronic.
So
we all have some stress, but it doesn't have to be chronic or toxic stress.
Well, we can't avoid it, obviously, but there's what? So your little book shows people how to deal with it quickly. Is that right?
Right, and the chapters in the book that we're talking about also gives you all the exercises that you can use. I just thought people should have something close to them so that they can pick it up.
Exactly.
I do one of these exercises maybe 3 times a day. It also dramatically improves my productivity, which it was a surprise to me because it sends blood to the brain. So I am far more productive now than I ever was when I was living with chronic stress.
One of the chapters in the book is titled The Benefits of Gratitude. What are the benefits and what does gratitude have to do with health?
Gratitude is huge in terms of entire mindset and life experience. When I get up in the morning now, I write down 3 things that I am very grateful for from the day before. The number one, it improves all your relationships. Who doesn't want to know that they're appreciated and that you love them? And when you're practicing gratitude, you tell your employees how much you appreciate them. You tell your customers how much you appreciate them. You share that with your spouse, with your friendships, with your family members, and it improves the happiness in your life exponentially. But by doing that, it releases serotonin, which is made in the gut, but then makes you happy. And that lowers your blood pressure. It improves your happiness quotient. It releases stress. And there's a new book out on telomeres. It actually lengthens your telomeres, which is the tips of your DNA, so that you age slower.
Yes.
So gratitude is even good for your skin and for your aging process.
Well,
and it just makes you happier, period.
Well, it does. I mean, you do the 3 things in the morning you're grateful for. Every night before I go to bed, I go through the day and say thank you, and go through absolutely everything that happened. No, I'm grateful for. Even the bad bits and the good bits. If you don't have bad bits, then how are you going to know what the good bits are?
And the bad things generally lead you to do an adjustment that makes them good.
Exactly.
So they're not bad after all.
Exactly. It's your perception of them. So next, let's go on to forest bathing. Forest bathing?
I got totally fascinated with trees while I was writing the book.
Well, I love
because
trees.
I wanted to talk about returning to nature as self-care. And trees are fascinating, and they're discovering all kinds of things about trees. So I included forest bathing in the book. Trees actually release chemicals for themselves to stay healthy. But it ends up, if you go into the trees and you sit down, those chemicals are outrageously good for your body as well. They're even cancer prevention chemicals. So that if you take the time to stay in the moment, go to the forest, use all your senses, it's good for the soul, it's good for the mind, and all those chemicals are good for the body.
Well, definitely. The energy is wonderful.
Absolutely.
The healthy children in the 21st century includes telling them where food comes from. Why?
Well, number one, over 50% of the children in America are chronically ill. I found that frightening. I don't know what the statistics are in other areas of the world, but they've done studies that show that kids have no clue where their food comes from because they're eating processed and fast food, which is pure chemicals. So to go back and take them to the farm and have them grow an appreciation for where their food is actually coming from and why it's important for them to be eating real nutrients is critical. I started looking into it because I read an article that children think that chocolate milk comes from chocolate cows. They didn't know that, they had no clue that milk is milk, and you add chocolate to it to get chocolate.
I rather like the idea of that.
Where chocolate came from, or that it grew on a tree. So I think it's important for them to appreciate sometimes what their food goes through when it's real food to go on their plate. And it's important to cook with your kids. So it's important to start them with where does their food comes from. And if you can get their hands into the dirt and gardening, all those microbes are incredibly good for your child's body. So it helps on a multitude of levels for them to know where their food comes from.
So I've got this vision in my head now, and I can see this chocolate cow wandering around mooing.
You're producing sweet, sugary chocolate milk.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Bugs and creepy crawlers. Personally, I can't bear the thought of killing anything, no matter how many legs it has. However, having them in our homes is unpleasant, but how do you get rid of them without using pesticides, which are loaded with harmful chemicals?
Well, I started looking into this because as a pet lover, I didn't want the chemicals near my cats. And I didn't want them near me because my whole first book was about getting rid of all the toxins in my life so that I could return to a pain-free life, which I did. So I started looking into how to get rid of bugs because they really annoy me. I don't want to use sides. Side by nature means kills. So no pesticides, no insecticides, no herbicides. And I was lucky enough to meet a guy named Richard the Bug Man, who's in charge of bugs in the state of New Mexico. And he shared all kinds of interesting ways to rid my house of insects without chemicals. The funniest one was I only had roaches once in my life. It was when I actually lived in Beverly Hills, California, and they were multiplying quickly, and I didn't want to use anything that was chemical to get rid of them. Well, he shared with me the best dish of beer because they love beer and they will go drown themselves in it.
It's hilarious.
It's much easier than using boric acid, which I worried about being around my pets and around myself.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to mispronounce it, diatomaceous dirt for ants. They get it on their little feet and they go away and they don't come back. That also works somewhat for fleas, but grounding up rosemary and petting it on your animal gets rid of the fleas as well. And then you clean your carpet and get rid of the eggs and you take care of the problem. For moths, we actually found a plant that we grow in the backyard and put in my pantry because I got attacked by pantry moths. I'm trying to think of what the name of that plant is at the moment. But they didn't like the plant. And I have discovered organic farmers, where I go to farmers markets, often will plant this same plant around where what they're growing, right, so that they don't have to use pesticides and herbicides. So there are low toxin solutions, and I list them all in the book, which helps dramatically.
Discovering how to be a great pet guardian in the toxic world. What the heck is in your purchased pet food? That's a good question, actually. We cook a week's supply of food at a time for our dog, and we have the luxury of time to be able to do so. But what about pet owners that don't? What should they feed their pets?
In my section on animal food, I actually list a hierarchy depending upon what you can afford to spend. Because some of the solutions are quite expensive and not everybody has that much money.
Sure.
So from cooking all your own food, which can be dangerous if you're not doing it in a balanced way and adding in the vitamins and the minerals that food needs to keep your pet healthy,
exactly,
all the way down to pulling something off the shelf that you're buying, but there are healthier choices. I list places where you can go find lists of better foods. Cornucopia is an organic organization in the United States that just put out a better, best list of canned foods. The Institute for Responsible Technology also has put out lists of better, best foods, so that you want to make sure that you follow that and you're giving your animal a chance. You do not, under any circumstance, want to be feeding them kibble. Kibble is a carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is nothing to do with their species-specific diet, and it turns to sugar. And one of the diseases that our pets are getting rapidly, as well as humans, is cancer. And it's because all of that kibble is turning into sugar.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you're feeding them a healthier food. One of the comments from one of the holistic vets that I studied was, if you can only afford to give your pet healthy treats a couple of times during the week, that's better than not feeding them anything healthy at all. So you need to read the chapter, you need to take a look at what's available, and then you need to make decisions based upon what you can. But buy the best possible food that you can afford.
Something that always irritates me, pet vaccines. Large amounts of money for something that is potentially harmful and perhaps unnecessary, but kennels, especially here in the UK, won't take an animal in unless there's proof of vaccinations. What's your thoughts on this?
In the book, I talk a lot about vaccines, but I don't tell people what to do. And I don't because the owner is the person who has to deal with whatever the ramifications are of whatever decision that they make. Holistic vets will guide you, and I would imagine there are holistic vets in England as well as here in the United States. And we way over vaccinate here. There are certain things that are mandatory for you to give your pet. But if you have a robust conversation with your holistic vet, they will guide you to what the best solutions are. And then I discovered something I never knew. There's something called a titter, which you can give to your animal to know if the last vaccination is still working in your pet. And if it is, it's not necessary to give it to them again. And you might actually be able to get your vet to sign off that your pet is protected. He's been tested, and he's fine to go into the kennel so that you can get around it. It's important that you have the robust conversation with your vet. One of the disgusting things I discovered is whether you have a 2-pound dog or a 200-pound
Yes.
So you can have that conversation with them and get a good guidance. A holistic vet, like a functional doctor here, they're proactive, they're not reactive. And
Right.
that's why I feel so strongly that you need a functional doctor or an integrative doctor as your doctor, and you need a holistic vet for your pet. You want to be proactive. You want to keep that animal healthy.
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us about Cheryl Meyer. How did you become interested in food as medicine?
Well, I was busy working 24/7, not paying any attention to much of anything to do with my health, not paying attention to the fact that the universe was telling me my toxic load was growing. I was getting random rashes. I was waking up all puffy. I was waking up with all kinds of joint and muscle pain. And so if I'd been paying attention, I might have been able to be proactive, but I became reactive when I woke up one morning and I couldn't move. Everything in my body hurt. And I had significant brain fog. I wasn't sleeping well. I was having a hard time functioning, period. And I went to my conventional doctor, and after running 4 rounds of tests, she came back and told me there was nothing wrong with me. That's ridiculous. I hurt. So I had a staff that had been with me a very long time. I turned my business over to them and started researching. And I tripped into the functional medicine community, who was running 19 different symposiums with multiple doctors at the time. And I listened to them all.
Mm.
They all became functional because they got sick and couldn't help themselves.
Right.
And it all started with food is medicine, leaky gut. Leaky gut. Do I have leaky gut? Ends up, yep, I did. And that if I had to learn to deal with what was causing my leaky gut, which was toxins and stress. So I started learning all the little exercises I share about stress, and then I literally looked up every single product in my life and traded it out with something less toxic. And my first book is all about that process, where I researched and what I ended up using after finding out what was terribly, horribly toxic in my life. I got so excited that I returned to a place of no pain 5 years later. I was running into people everywhere I went that were having the same issues I was, and scared and not finding help.
Sure.
So I returned to school to become a health coach at 67, and then sat down and wrote my first book. And I've been out there. I've done over 150 podcasts since then. I just started my own podcast. I really want to be all in giving other people, especially with chronic illness, hope that they don't have to live a life of pain and pills.
You're an integrative nutrition health coach. What does that involve?
That's where I went to school. My BA is from Berkeley, and it's UC Berkeley, and it's in English, which came in handy writing my books. But I didn't think that was going to give me any credibility in health. So the Institute for Integrative Nutrition was a year of intensive study of all the different ways to view health, and that health is not just what we would think of it, which is movement and food. It's also community and what's called primary foods. It's our joy and our happiness and our self-care, our forest bathing. All of that is part of the total holistic health of a person. So I went to school so that I could get credentialed to talk about this, so that people would hear me when I was speaking about what they could do for themselves. If you own your own health and you do your own research, you can at least have robust conversations with your physician, no matter what kind they are, to be part of how you handle your health going forward. And that's critical.
You have a local community TV show called It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future Proof Your Health. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that and how we can watch or listen in?
Well, the TV show is literally local. It is only within my immediate 4 communities because it's community access TV.
Right.
But I just started a podcast on Voice America using the same episodes, and it goes out to 69 countries, and it's under the same name. I called it It Feels Good to Feel Good because I tell you, when you lose your health, you want to celebrate that. But I called it Future Proof Your Health for the people that I talk to when I go out and speak, who say, I don't need this, I'm healthy. Because guess what? it takes 20 years for toxic load to build up in your body.
Yes.
And you need to start acting like you're sick today so you never go there. Because once you topple over into toxic load, I will always have autoimmune disease. That is never going to change. But I don't have pain anymore, and I sure wish I had paid attention to it before I got sick. My life would be so much easier today if I had. So my podcast is in two parts. It's in the Future Proof Your Health, which I talk about things like gratitude and why it's so important, or things like eating the rainbow. But the second part is Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muses in, because I'm talking to other people who got sick, who were able to own it, change their lifestyle, things that they could change, and return to health. And I want people to hear it from a lot more people than just me, to know that it's possible, because I want them to have hope that they have some control over what happens to their body.
Back to your book. You say health must start with healthy habits. Can you give an example of the three most important, please?
It's hard to put it down to three. Certainly, eating clean, non-toxic, real food would be number one. Having a community that you have around you that supports the way you live is critical. It's actually number one on many functional doctors' lists of health. I was lucky. I was in a toxic relationship when I got sick. He went out the door, and I found a wonderful man who supports me in everything I do, who wanted to go on a get well journey with me, and he's lost 80 pounds since we've been together. I married him 5 years ago. So having people around you that believe what you believe and support your health habits is critical. And then I think next would be what you drink. Be careful what comes out of your faucet. Get a water department report and stop drinking water out of plastic, because it's poisoning you right into the water. And in the United States, it's less regulated than what even comes out of your tap. We filtered our water right away, and we bought stainless steel bottles. So we take our water with us everywhere we go, and we refill it from stainless steel jugs, which we keep in the car. But, movement is important. You have to find something that you like to move. You need to have good mindset and lower your stress. You need to get a good night's sleep every night. The new belief is 7 hours of sleep is as important as controlling your stress. And there's a brand new book out that you have to learn to breathe correctly, because if you don't, that also impacts your health dramatically.
Very much so. You also say, try my tips for 90 days and feel the difference. What's the first difference that readers can expect to feel then?
It could be a couple of different things. My first difference was a little bit less pain, which I noticed. For you, it might be less brain fog when you get up in the morning. And if you're more tired when you get up than when you went to bed, something's wrong. And that might be where your body starts to talk to you. I could actually feel my body having more energy going through my limbs when I changed how I ate than I could feel before. But I also started looking in the mirror once a week in the morning and saying, okay, body, how you doing? And making adjustments depending upon what it said to me. And there was a long period of time where I had good days and bad days. Now the pain is gone. But that did not happen overnight. But within 90 days, I had made giant leaps back to feeling good. And it was worth everything I did. And when you start feeling that way, it propels you to continue with your healthy habits.
Of course. I see you're already receiving wonderful reviews for Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin in Community and Everyday Life, including a treasure trove of essential information. This book has so many great tips, but I especially enjoyed the chapter on eating out healthy in restaurants. And author Cheryl Meyer has done it again. She's given us another great reference book for living low toxin. I love her warm writing style. It's like having a conversation with her. So finally, Cheryl, I have to ask you, where can Book Talk Radio Club's listeners purchase Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin in Community and Everyday Life?
You can buy it in two places. You can buy it on Amazon, All of my books are there, and I would go to the author page and take a look at all. I now have 4 books out, but the 2 big books, the one on getting rid of toxins and the one how to live in community, are the 2 main ones that you need to pay attention to. And I opened my own publishing company, so I have a website so that they can all hang out together, and it's called heavenlytreepress.com.
Oh, lovely.
So you can go to either place and see all my books and purchase them. I will tell you, whether you're healthy or you're sick, or you have a sick child or a sick pet, these books are a treasure trove of great information.
Most definitely, most definitely. All right, well, thank you, Cheryl. That was so interesting. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club soon. I'd love to chat and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thanks very much, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Bye now.